Today we're going to show you how to change the front dispenser bucket auger nut on your refrigerator. It's a really easy job. All you need is a flat blade screwdriver, a Phillips screwdriver, a pair of slip joint pliers, and a putty knife. Let me show you how we do it. Right, to do this repair, we'll begin by opening the freezer door. And we'll lift up on the ice dispenser assembly, pull it forward, slide it right out of its rack, and we'll set it aside to do the repair. Now that we have the ice bin on a suitable work surface, we can remove the cover so that we can gain access to that auger nut. Now to do that, we'll remove one Phillips screw that holds that shield in place. And then on the bottom there are two more that hold the front on. We'll be able to lift that up and pull it off. We'll also need to disconnect the spring that holds tension on the crusher arm and remove one more screw on the pivot point at the front. We'll begin by removing that single Phillips head screw that holds the shield in place. We'll take that out completely. Set the shield aside, and we'll turn it over, remove two screws, hold the bottom in place. Now to get that front off, we do need to lift it up enough to clear that tab. And then just slide it off and set that aside. Flip it back over again. And we'll start by releasing the tension on the spring. Then we'll remove one screw on the pivot point. There may be a little washer underneath that pivot. We'll take that aside, and we can disengage that arm from the crusher assembly. We'll flip it over again. Now to remove the inner assembly from the ice bucket, we need to slide it upwards. It's held in place with a couple of locking tabs, one on either side. So with our putty knife, we'll go in on one side and just put a little outward pressure, enough to disengage that tab. Keep that upward pressure on it. Do the same thing on the opposite side. So they're both released, and then you can slide the whole assembly up. Now we'll bring the auger out with it. We can set the bin aside. Now to replace the auger nut, we need to remove that E-ring that's on there with a flat blade screwdriver. We'll pop that E-ring off. And the little thrust washer that was in behind it. We'll set those aside. Now we can pull the whole auger out through the back. Now with the auger out, we can grasp that auger nut with a pair of slip joint pliers. And there's a left-hand thread on it, so we're going to turn it clockwise to remove it. Now hold the cutter arms in place while we take that nut off. And set that aside. Take our new auger nut, take care not to get it cross-threaded. We'll turn it counterclockwise to tighten it. And as we do so, we want to make sure that we don't jam any of those cutter arms. Now very carefully take the slip joint pliers, tighten that nut. Use care not to over tighten it. And then we can insert the whole auger assembly back into the front portion. Now the fixed cutters are fastened to a plastic pivot point that has to slide into that housing on the bottom. So I want to make sure that that slides in to the right position. Rotate the shaft until it comes through. Put our thrust washer on, and then our E-ring. With our slip joint pliers, we'll press that E-ring onto the front of the auger nut. So it's firmly seated. We'll rotate the housing on the back into place. And now we can put it back into the bin. To install it in the bin, we'll slide the back of the auger through the opening in the rear. Drop the front into place. These little hooks will fit into a slot on either side. Press it down until the two locking tabs secure it. And we can rotate it over and we'll reinstall the crusher arm. Just reach inside the opening and push that plastic guide outward so that we can put the hook of that crusher arm into place. We'll set our little flat washer into position. Make sure that pivot hooks over the tab on the ice bucket. We'll reinstall that screw. We'll reconnect the spring on the back. Okay. Make sure the hooked portion of that spring is out over that tab. Rotate it up onto the top. Pull the back of the spring around the rod and hook it into place. And you can check the operation of that. Now we're ready to put the front back on. We'll just slide it, the bottom of it, in under the edge a bit. Lift the top so that this tab will clear. Drop into position. Flip it back over and install the two screws on the bottom. Now lift it up again and we'll put the shield in place. And the two tabs on the shield will go between the front cover and the inner housing. So slide those into position. Install the one last screw. And now we're ready to install the bin back into the refrigerator. Now we're ready to install the ice bin. We'll want to make sure that the back of the auger lines up with the forks of the drive motor and that the hook for the crusher solenoid is in place. Make sure it seats fully and it won't pull forward without lifting it up. And our repair is complete.